Halfway through 2023, is this the right time to get into an Airbnb or VRBO short-term rental? The answer is maybe, maybe not, but I think that there's some opportunity on the horizon, so let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Airbnb ABCs. For the most part, the gold rush in the short-term rental market, I think, has come to a close. The times of people being able to buy a property, put it on the market, and get a 50 to 100% or more cash-on-cash return in that first year, I think is just behind us. The deal is that back in those days, the 18s and 19s and the early parts of the pandemic in 20 and really even into 2021, because we were able to purchase a place in 2021, and I think we did north of 50% cash on cash return that first year. The market was out of whack, where you could buy these places for a low amount of money at a ridiculously low interest rate and rent it for pretty high rates. And those things that happen when a market is out of whack like that, they tend to rapidly correct themselves because people hear about it, they get into it, the prices go up, the rental rates don't necessarily go up as much as the prices go up, and things become a mature market. And that's sort of where we're sitting right now in the short-term rental space, is a more mature market. But in 2023 and towards the end of 2022, we've had three major headwinds kind of hit the short-term rental market, and that's the prices of the real estate, the interest rates, and those two kind of go hand in hand, and the general demand for any one particular area. A lot of folks have been saying that prices are high, and I'm now starting to say that prices are just prices. In general, real estate across the United States has gone up in price dramatically and doesn't show any signs of coming down. Pretty much, even with interest rates as high as they have gotten, prices have not come down, and really over time, people started to get used to these higher interest rates, and the prices have started to edge up a little bit more. And this crash that everyone has prophesied for the last decade or so just isn't materializing. And there is a lot to do about that. That could be a totally separate video about why I think that the housing market is definitely not going to crash. So, leave me a comment below if you want to hear about that. But for the most part, we're going to keep on the Airbnb and VRBO stuff. In general, with these things, prices are not coming down, and they're not coming down much. There is some exception to this. The huge places that I've seen, like the 4, 6, 8 bedroom places, those have come down in a pretty significant amount. And I think that the reason for that is because as prices ran up during the pandemic, people just started listing stuff for like a 1.5 bajillion dollars, and even if that's even a number. And they've just started coming down to reality that they can't get these just ridiculous, amounts. The smaller places too, like your studios and your legitimate one bedrooms that are, like 900 square feet or below, those have come down a little bit, not terribly much. But for the most part, prices have remained unchanged. The 2 and 3 bedroom places, they're still going for about $500,000 to $750,000 for your premium places with, that are up to date with views and the things that people want to see. And honestly, they're probably not going to come down anytime soon because the people that have those are making money, and there's really no reason for them to sell below what they bought them for as long as they are still making money and everything is going well. In addition, interest rates are flying high. This is not news to anybody, but investment loans are, in the 8% plus range. And so that makes things much harder to finance, makes it harder for you to afford the place that you want to put on the market. And, to get that same payment that we were getting for $500,000 places when we got them at 3.25%, at 4.375%, the cabins or the house or whatever the property is would need to be about $325,000, and it's probably just not going to happen on a property that may be making $75,000 to $100,000, depending on where it is and what the place has in it. People want to say demand is lower, and demand for travel is lower in any one particular place, but actually demand for travel is up. The deal is that there are just more travel options for folks to go do. During the pandemic times, there was a lot of travel restrictions, especially internationally, and especially to places that had a lot of folks in one spot, like all-inclusive resorts or, just major resorts, hotels, and things where they were worried about the virus spreading. But for the most part, that is opened up, and people they have more options, so they go more places other than like your single-family home at the beach or in the Smokies. Costs have also really crushed the consumer, especially our core traveler, especially to the Smoky Mountains, that is probably making, around the median household income or the median individual income. And so those folks have been squeezed, but there is no Airbnb bust that has been, again, made popular by folks on TikTok and YouTube that really just want to see Airbnb and short-term rental hosts fail. In general, we are down only 3.6% year over year, but we are up in our net. I think we're up 4.8% year over year just because of some lower expenses. And the deal is that in the short-term rental space, we are still making so much money that it would
hurt your parents' feelings. Dollar bills, y'all.
And so if you want to get into the short-term rental game, what are you to do? If you're watching people like me, if you're watching the VRBO channel, or if you're watching any of these other channels out there that are talking about how great short-term rental investment properties are, and you want to get in on it, what are you going to do? The biggest thing that I need you guys to accept is that you are probably not going to get that 50% or 100% cash-on-cash return in your first year. There is a chance that, 10 or 15 years out that you may be making 50% plus cash-on-cash return, because that inflation is not going to stop inflating. Just because it comes down to 2% doesn't mean prices go backwards. It just means they're going up at a slower rate. So, what I want you guys to look at is a reasonable rate of return. In what I'm looking for as far as cash-on-cash returns in any type of investment outside of the stock market that is basically just put the money in there, it makes money, is double that return. So that 7 to 10% that the S&P returns, I'm looking for 14 to 20% cash-on-cash return on the front end. But keep in mind your total return. And cash flow is the number one thing, because if that thing is not making money and if it's not at least supporting itself, that is a no-go for me. We need to be pulling out money on this, monthly or quarterly or yearly, however you want to pay yourself. But I do want you to consider your equity gain from note pay down, from appreciation, and then the tax benefits that are essentially probably going to shelter 100% of your profits. And if you are able to materially participate in this, it will even allow you to offset some of your W-2 income. And if you guys are high income W-2 folks, that could be a tremendous savings in tax, where even if you're not making a ton of money on cash flow, you could be saving a ton of money on taxes and ending up really far ahead. The biggest thing, takeaway on this is that, once we got the cash flow game going and, we're making several $1,000s a month in cash flow, we really started looking at how much we were making on our back-end money. And when we looked at that from just the start of investing in real estate in 2023, I have learned that our equity gains have been by far the most money that we have made in the real estate game. And this is a subject that is repeated time and time again on other real estate channels as they get more mature into their game. They realize that their equity gains are far outpacing what they are getting in cash flow, but equity in that such does not pay the bills. It doesn't pay the mortgage or the cleaners or get you a fancy new sports car or a boat. So cash flow is obviously going to be number one. If you don't have it, you got to pass on that property. So the biggest thing to do while you're waiting is to prepare to strike when it's time. Preparation is always the biggest factor in nearly anything that you do in your entire life, and it's no different for short-term rentals. The biggest thing that you need to do is stack cash. This business is a very dollar-intensive business. We don't do things on $1, $10, $100. This is usually $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 type of business. And so when you're stacking cash, invest that in something that's very liquid, like a mutual fund, like a total market fund, which is what I invest my spare money into, like a VTSAX or something like that. And maybe look into getting some sort of long-term rental that is significantly cheaper than that $4, $5, $6, $700,000, $1 million short-term rental. You can take that place that you pick up for 150 and you have to do some rehab in, or 200. You can sit on that for a couple of years and you may end up with a $50, $100, $150,000 gain in equity based on either fixing it up or just the market going up over time. That is how we ended up getting into short-term rentals, was by leveraging the equity gain in our long-term rentals. Be sure that you're getting your credit and your debt to income in order, especially if you are using a conventional loan that takes into account your debt to income and your credit rating. If your credit is terrible, fix that up, pay your credit cards off, and just, be ready. Be on the lookout for any deals that do come up on the market. They come and go very quickly. There's people like me in hundreds, thousands of people that are consistently scouring listings, looking for that deal that may be underpriced for the area that the realtor didn't photograph very well, so it's not getting a lot of attention. Our last place that we bought for $600,000 should have probably sold for at least $100,000 more because the listing was just awful. We were able to capitalize on that, and we were able to get a good deal because we were constantly looking and constantly just being aware of what is on the market. If it cash flows now, if you can find a deal that cash flows right now, even if it's not a ton, you can likely refi that in the future. I do think that interest rates are going to come down, slightly to significantly in the future, maybe so that investment loans are down in the 5 to 6% range. I don't know if we're going to see the 4s anytime soon. So if it cash flows, take a look at it, see what it needs, give it a solid look, and then maybe pounce on that. But make sure that it cash flows now, so you're not counting on that refi in order to put that cash flow into your pocket. But if it does now, and you're able to refi at a 1 to 3% lower rate than you're getting right now, you are definitely going to be able to jump that cash flow amount tremendously when you are able to refi that thing. In my opinion, there is going to come a time in the relatively near future where rates are going to start to retreat. I do believe that the Fed is towards the end of their rate tightening cycle, and then once those are done, I believe rates will start to drift down slightly. And as they start cutting rates, which I think that they will, in order to keep the economy going, once they dial in their 2% target rate of inflation, that they will start to reduce rates, and mortgage rates will end up following. Now, how low they go, into the 6s or the 5s, maybe the 4s for investment loans, I don't know if we're going to see that anytime soon. As I've said, there will be like a 3 to 6 month window where no one really realizes what's going on. Sellers don't necessarily realize what's going on. Buyers don't necessarily realize that the rates have come down. So the affordability for any purchase point is maybe down. The mortgage cost is now down like $500, $600, $700, $1,000 a month. And so when these rates start falling off, there'll be that 3 to 6 month window before prices start going up. And I think that this is the way that it's going to go for short-term rental properties in highly desirable areas, and just the general real estate market in general, is that there will be a time when the rates come down. People don't know it, and then after that, the prices of real estate start shooting off again, and who knows where it's going to end up with the limited amount of supply that we have in the market. But that is going to be your time to strike, when the prices are still low, the interest rates are down and coming down, and you may be able to get that price at or that property at the price that it is now, at let's say like a 6.5 or a 7%, and then as rates come down, you may be able to refi that into a 5%, and so you're not buying that house a year down the road where its value is up by another 10-15%, and now at that 5% rate, you're still at the same price that you could have gotten it for the price today at that 7.5%, 8%, even 9% rate, if it makes sense, and if it cash flows, and if you're actually going to make money on the thing. The biggest thing to take away, guys, is that short-term rentals are not going away, despite what you see on TikTok. Prices in rental rates are not going back to what they were in 2018 or 2019. There is not a single thing, service, product, anything that is ever going back to those prices that we see, and there's no reason that we saw in 2018 and prior, and there's no reason to think that real estate or the travel industry is any different than any other product or service out there. So guys, if you like this video, hit the like button for me. Subscribe down below if you're not subscribed, so you don't miss anything that I put out on short-term rental management or properties. Click on the videos that are on the screen right now. There's a playlist up there of all the cabins that we have purchased, the types of cabins that we buy in the prime areas that are pretty much always going to rent, how we manage them from afar, and all the trials and tribulations of managing a short-term rental business from a long distance away. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you on the next one.